What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors finally loses his patience? Live on television. Danny DeVito, known for his warmth, wit, and easygoing charm, found himself at the center of a moment no one expected. What began as a cheerful, light-hearted interview quickly unraveled into one of the most uncomfortable on-air clashes in The View's history. Before we break down what Joy Behar said that pushed him over the edge, make sure you subscribe and let us know in the comments. Was Danny out of line, or was this long overdue? Danny walked onto the View set with his trademark swagger, waving to the cheering crowd. He took his seat with that familiar grin, adjusting his suit jacket as the applause faded. The panel welcomed him warmly, with Whoopi Goldberg leading the introductions. "Danny, we're so happy to have you here." Whoopi began with a genuine smile. "You've been in this business for decades, and you're still going strong." "What's the secret?" Danny chuckled. "You know, I just love what I do. I've worked with incredible people, and I try to bring something real to every role. Plus," he added with a wink, "a lot of pasta. That helps." The audience roared with laughter. The tone was easy, playful, exactly the kind of interview everyone expected. Sarah Haynes asked about his new projects, and Danny spoke thoughtfully about the industry. "I think audiences are smarter than we give them credit for," he said, his tone turning sincere. "They can tell when something's honest and when it's just manufactured nonsense. That's why I try to choose stories that have heart, whether it's comedy or drama." Sonny Hostin smiled. "And you've done that your whole career, Danny. From Taxi to It's Always Sunny. You've brought that authenticity." "Thanks, Sonny," Danny replied, clearly touched. The conversation flowed easily, until Joy Behar leaned forward with a glint in her eye. "Danny, I have to ask you something," she began. "You've been very vocal politically over the years, and I respect that. But I'm curious. How do you reconcile being so outspoken about values when you've made millions playing characters that, let's be honest, aren't exactly role models?" The air in the studio shifted. The laughter stopped. Danny's smile faded, though his composure didn't. "What do you mean by that, Joy?" "Well," she continued, pressing on, "you play Frank Reynolds, who's basically a degenerate. You've played crooks, sleazeballs, all kinds of questionable people. Don't you think it's a little hypocritical to lecture people on morality when your career's built on celebrating the opposite?" The audience murmured uneasily. Danny's jaw tightened. "I think you're confusing acting with real life, Joy," he said evenly. "That's a pretty fundamental distinction." "But you profit from it," Joy pushed back. "You profit from portraying bad behavior, then turn around and tell everyone else how to act. Isn't that a bit rich?" Whoopi shifted in her chair. "I think what Joy's trying to say—" "No," Danny cut in, his voice firm. "Let her finish. I want to hear exactly what she's trying to say." Joy, misreading his tone, continued. "Look, I'm not attacking you, Danny. I'm just saying maybe actors should stick to acting. When your whole career's built on pretending, maybe people have a right to question your credibility when you start talking politics." For a long, heavy moment, Danny said nothing. The tension was electric. Sarah Haynes stared at the table. Alyssa Farrah Griffin looked like she wanted to vanish. Finally, Danny leaned forward. His voice was low, calm, but razor-sharp. "Joy, do you actually understand what acting is?" "Of course I do," she said, bristling. "I don't think you do," he replied, "because if you did, you wouldn't sit here making one of the most ignorant arguments I've ever heard on television. And trust me, I've heard a lot." Joy's face reddened. "Excuse me? You're excused," Danny shot back. "But since nobody else will, let me educate you for a second." The tension in the studio was suffocating, and what he said next would leave the panel speechless. "Acting isn't about glorifying bad behavior," Danny began, his tone low but powerful, the kind that silences a room. It's about holding up a mirror to society, showing people the full spectrum of what it means to be human. The good, the bad, and the ugly. He leaned forward, his gaze locked on Joy. When I play Frank Reynolds, I'm not endorsing his behavior. I'm revealing it. I'm showing what greed, selfishness, and moral decay look like when you strip away the excuses. That's not hypocrisy. That's art. And if you can't understand that distinction, Joy, maybe you shouldn't be sitting at a table discussing anything more complex than the weather, Huss rippled through the audience. Danny, Whoopi interjected carefully. I think... No, Whoopi, I'm not done, Danny said, holding up a hand. His voice sharpened. Because this isn't just about Joy's ignorant comment. This is about a much bigger problem. A complete misunderstanding of what artists do. We don't just entertain, we provoke thought. We challenge comfort zones. We make people see. And yes, we have every right to speak out on politics, on injustice, on anything that matters. He glanced around the table. Last time I checked, this was still America. Being an actor doesn't revoke my citizenship. Joy tried to cut in. I never said you didn't have the right. But you implied I shouldn't use it. Danny interrupted, his voice rising. You implied that because I play characters you find morally questionable, I should keep my mouth shut. Well, let me tell you something, Joy. My lane is wherever the hell I decide it is. I've been in this business over 50 years. I've earned the right to speak my mind without being lectured by a talk show host who doesn't even understand what I do for a living. The air in the studio had turned heavy. Sonny Hostin tried to calm things down. I think maybe we all just need to take a breath. Don't patronize me, Sonny, Danny snapped. This isn't about calming down. It's about respect. Respect for the craft. Respect for the work. And respect for the intelligence of the audience. People who know that an actor playing a villain doesn't become one. Joy's face had gone from red to pale. She tried to interject, but Danny wasn't finished. You want to talk about hypocrisy, Joy? Let's talk about hypocrisy. He leaned forward, his voice razor-sharp. You sit here every day judging people. Politicians, celebrities, whoever crosses your radar. Telling millions of viewers what to think. And that's fine, that's your job. But you're doing exactly what you accuse me of doing. You use your platform to influence people. So by your own logic, shouldn't you stick to telling jokes? Last time I checked, you started as a comedian. Joy's composure cracked. That's completely different, she shot back. I'm a journalist. I'm a commentator. This is literally my job. Danny laughed, a cold, humorless laugh. Oh, I see. So you get to decide who's qualified to speak on real issues. You get to gatekeep the conversation. How convenient. He gestured toward her. Tell me, Joy, what makes you more qualified than me? Your journalism degree? Your ability to read off a teleprompter? Please, enlighten me. Okay, Whoopi said, her voice firm now. We need to pump the brakes. This is getting too heated. No, Whoopi, let him talk, Joy said suddenly, her anger flaring. If Danny wants to insult me on national television, let him do it. Let people see what happens when you question a Hollywood elite. Danny's eyes widened in disbelief. Hollywood elite? Are you kidding me right now? He gestured toward her. You're sitting on a syndicated talk show, making millions of dollars, lecturing people every morning. And I'm the elite? The lack of self-awareness here is staggering. Sarah Haynes stepped in, her voice soft but urgent. Maybe we can all agree that everyone has the right to express their opinion, no matter what their profession. Danny nodded slightly. Thank you, Sarah. That's exactly my point. But Joy seems to think actors should be seen and not heard. Unless, of course, we're saying something that fits her worldview. Joy shook her head. That's not what I said. You're twisting my words. I simply asked how you reconcile playing immoral characters with being politically outspoken. It's a fair question. It's a stupid question, Danny fired back. And the fact that you don't see why it's stupid is exactly the problem. Do you think Anthony Hopkins endorses cannibalism because he played Hannibal Lecter? Do you think Bryan Cranston supports the drug trade because he played Walter White? Your question isn't just naive. It's insulting to every actor who's ever had the courage to play something dark and difficult. Alyssa Farrah Griffin finally spoke up, choosing her words carefully. I think what Joy meant was that some people feel disconnected when celebrities use their platforms for politics. It's not personal. It's something a lot of the public struggles with. Danny turned to her and nodded. And that's fair, Alyssa. That's a real conversation. But what Joy did wasn't that. What she did was take a cheap shot at the very idea of artistic integrity. And she dressed it up as journalism. The audience was utterly silent. Every camera in the room stayed locked on Danny, who sat back in his chair, unflinching. Then those people are idiots, Danny said flatly. A collective gasp rippled through the studio. Sorry, he added. But it's true. The idea that being famous, or being an actor somehow disqualifies you from having a political opinion is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. We're citizens. Just like everyone else. We pay taxes, we vote. We live in this society. Why shouldn't we speak out about issues that affect us too? Joy's lips curled into a smirk. Oh, I'm sorry, she said, her tone thick with sarcasm. I didn't realize that playing dress-up for a living gave you some special insight into complex political issues. The room froze. Even the camera crew stopped moving. Danny stood up slowly, his face hardening as the tension in the air turned electric. For a second, it looked like he might walk off. Instead, he remained standing, shoulders squared, eyes locked on Joy, his presence suddenly larger than life. Playing dress-up? He repeated, his voice low and steady, which somehow made it even more intimidating. Is that what you think I do, Joy? Is that what you think Meryl Streep does? Daniel Day-Lewis? Viola Davis? We play dress-up? Danny, please, Whoopi urged softly. Sit down. No, Whoopi, he said, shaking his head. I don't think I will. Not until I finish. He turned back to Joy. You want to know what I actually do? I study people. I listen. I read. I spend months, sometimes years, trying to understand what drives human beings, what breaks them, what redeems them. I talk to people from every walk of life. I absorb their stories, their pain, their joy, and then I bring that to the screen so others can see themselves. Maybe for the first time. So yeah, maybe that does give me a little insight into complex issues. Because my job is to understand humanity, every messy, complicated part of it, I crossed her arms. That's a very romantic view of what you do, she said, rolling her eyes. But at the end of the day, you're still just an actor. You're not a politician. You're not an expert. You're not an economist. And you're not any of those things either, Joy, Danny fired back, his voice echoing through the studio. But that doesn't stop you from running your mouth every single day about politics, economics, foreign policy, everything under the sun. So what's the difference? The difference, Joy shot back, is that I'm honest about what I am. I'm a commentator. I give opinions. That's my job. Danny took a step closer, his tone cutting through the air. And I'm honest about what I am. A citizen who cares about his country. An artist who uses his voice. You're a comedian turned talk show host who thinks holding a microphone makes you an expert on everything. Sunny Hostin leaned forward, her voice calm but tense. I think what's getting lost here is that everyone at this table wants the same thing. We all want the world to be better. We just have different ideas about how to do that. Danny finally sat down, but his posture stayed rigid. No, Sunny, he said firmly. That's not what's getting lost here. What's getting lost is respect. He turned toward Joy again. You asked a question designed to belittle me, to suggest that actors should stay quiet, stay in their lane. I'm not letting that slide. Not for me. and not for every actor who's ever been told to shut up and entertain. Joy leaned back in her chair, her expression smug. So you can dish it out, but you can't take it. I asked you one question, and you've been attacking me for 10 minutes straight. Danny let out a bitter laugh. Because your question was ignorant and insulting. And if you can't see that, maybe you're not as sharp as you think you are. A ripple of mixed reactions swept through the audience. Gasps, murmurs, a few hesitant claps. Whoopi looked exhausted. Sarah looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Sonny's expression was tight with concern. Alyssa sat frozen, eyes wide. Joy's face hardened. You know what, Danny? I think you've shown everyone here who you really are, she said coldly. You talk about respect, but you've been nothing but disrespectful since I asked a simple question. You can't handle criticism. You can't handle anyone pushing back. You're so used to everyone kissing your behind that the second someone challenges you, you lose it. Danny stared at her, unblinking. When he finally spoke, his voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You want to see me lose it, Joy, he said quietly. This isn't me losing it. This is me calmly explaining why you're wrong, Danny said evenly. If I were losing it, Joy, trust me, you'd know. We'd be having a very different conversation right now. The quiet threat in his tone made the studio go still. Whoopi rose from her seat, hands out in a peacekeeping gesture. Okay, we're gonna take a break. Commercial break, right now. No, Danny cut in, voice firm and commanding. We're not taking a break. Joy started this, and we're gonna finish it. She wanted this conversation on live television, so let's have it. Joy gave a dismissive scoff. Oh, please, you're being so dramatic. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You actors think everything's a performance. And you talk show hosts, Danny snapped. Think everything's a game. But this isn't a game to me, Joy. My career, my work, the work of my peers. That's not some vanity project. When you mock what we do, when you suggest we should shut up and stay out of politics, you're not just insulting me. You're disrespecting every artist who's ever used their platform to stand up for something that mattered. Joy rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go again with the speak truth to power stuff. You're not a revolutionary. Danny, you're a rich actor who lives in a bubble and thinks people should care what you think about the world. And you're a rich talk show host who lives in a bubble, Danny shot back, and thinks your opinions are somehow more valid. The difference is, I've never once said you shouldn't speak. I've never told you to stick to jokes and keep quiet about politics. I might disagree with you, but I'd never silence you. Can you say the same? Joy opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time, she looked caught off guard. Sarah Haynes jumped in quickly, her tone cautious. I think what's important here is that everyone, actors, hosts, teachers, whoever, has a voice in our democracy. And we should all be able to use it. Exactly, Danny said, nodding. That's all I've been saying. But Joy here thinks some voices don't count, that some people aren't qualified to speak. And I'm sorry, but that's not how democracy works. Joy finally found her voice. I never said you don't have the right to speak, Danny. I just questioned whether anyone should take you seriously when you do. Danny gave a cold, knowing smile. And there it is. It's not about my right to speak. It's about whether you think people should listen. But that's not your call to make, Joy. People will listen to whoever they want. If they choose to listen to me, that's their choice. If they listen to you, that's theirs too. You don't get to be the gatekeeper of whose voice matters. Sonny Hostin nodded gently. He's right. In a free society, people decide for themselves whose voices they value. Thank you, Danny said, his voice softening just slightly. That's all I wanted to say. I didn't come here to fight. I came to talk about my work, to have a real conversation. But I won't sit here and be disrespected, or made to feel like caring about the world I live in somehow makes me a hypocrite. Joy shook her head. You're twisting everything I said. I asked one question, and you turned it into this whole thing. Because your one question revealed something deeper, Danny replied sharply. And maybe if you'd asked it in good faith, if you really wanted to understand my perspective, this would have gone differently. But you didn't. You asked it as a gotcha, and I called it out. Whoopi exhaled deeply, sinking back into her seat. Can we please, just for the love of God, end this on a positive note? We've got 2 minutes left. Sure, Danny said, leaning back, finally settling but still composed. Let's end on a positive note. Joy, anything you'd like to say? Joy looked straight at him, expression icy. I stand by my question. It's fair to point out the disconnect between an actor's professional choices and their political activism. And I stand by my answer, Danny replied. His tone was steady, almost reflective now. There is no disconnect. My work is about revealing truth, showing the full scope of humanity. My activism is about doing the same thing, just off-screen. They're not contradictions, Joy. They're complements. Both come from the same place, wanting to make the world a little more honest and a little more human. The audience erupted in applause. Alyssa Farrah Griffin, who had stayed quiet for much of the exchange, finally spoke up. I think reasonable people can disagree on the role of celebrities in political discourse, she said carefully. But this conversation has shown it's far more nuanced than we sometimes give it credit for. Exactly, Danny said, nodding toward her. That's all I've been asking for. Nuance, understanding. Not knee-jerk dismissals of actors as people who should just shut up and entertain. Joy crossed her arms, unyielding. Well, I'm sorry if my question offended you, Danny, but I'm not apologizing for asking it. I don't want you to apologize for asking it, Danny replied calmly. I want you to understand why it was wrong, but I can see that's not going to happen today. Whoopi jumped in quickly. Danny DeVito, everyone. His new project is out now. We'll be right back after this break. As the show cut to commercial, Danny remained seated, expression still stormy. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or sit in awkward silence. Some clapped hesitantly, while others whispered in disbelief. Joy turned away, shuffling papers and avoiding his gaze. Sonny leaned over to say something, but with the mics off, viewers couldn't hear. Sarah looked shaken, and Alyssa checked her phone, likely reading the social media storm already erupting. When cameras returned for the final segment, the panel had regrouped, but tension lingered like a thick fog. Whoopi tried to steer the conversation to lighter topics, asking about weekend plans. Danny remained quiet, no longer firing words, but his earlier intensity had not faded. As the show wrapped, Whoopi thanked viewers, her usual warmth replaced by a strained professionalism. Danny rose as soon as the director called cut, shook hands with Sonny and Sarah, nodded at Alyssa, and walked off the set without acknowledging Joy. The audience sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. This wasn't the light-hearted interview they expected. It was raw, unfiltered confrontation between two strong personalities who refused to yield. Within minutes, clips of the exchange spread across every social media platform. People took sides, debating who was right. Some praised Danny for defending actors' rights and free expression. Others criticized him for being aggressive and thin-skinned. Joy's supporters argued her question was legitimate, while detractors claimed she'd provoked exactly what she deserved. Tweets went viral, think pieces were written, and the debate continued far beyond the broadcast. What began as a routine celebrity interview had become a cultural flashpoint, a moment that ignited discussion on celebrity activism, free speech, and who gets to be heard in public discourse. Regardless of which side viewers took, one thing was clear. This was an interview no one would forget anytime soon. Danny DeVito had revealed a side of himself rarely seen. Fierce, principled, and unwilling to be dismissed. Joy Behar had learned that asking the wrong question to the wrong person at the wrong time can produce television that's unforgettable, if uncomfortable. The view from that studio that day was one of confrontation, passion, and unflinching authenticity. In a world of carefully staged celebrity appearances and sanitized talk show segments, maybe that raw honesty was exactly what audiences needed to witness. So, what do you think? Was Danny right to push back so forcefully? Or did he go too far? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next one. We'll see you in the next video.